Hey friends, here we are again today to discuss and go over a new occult video. So the title of this video is a basic model for conducting soul retrieval. And I'm going to break down what all that is. Shamanic soul retrieval. So we start with shaman. Shaman is a holy man, magician, healer. Which shamanism has been part of every major culture that we know of. It's very old and it's cross-cultural. And we know from paintings, cave paintings and things that are like 40,000 years old, that this existed way back in the day. So what a shaman would do is a shaman would enter an ecstatic trance. They would do drumming, take mind-altering herbs in order to enter the spirit world and do healing and help individuals, help their tribes, help their communities. One of the things that they did was what's called soul retrieval. Now, what that soul retrieval is if they talk about, and they also talk about not only soul retrieval, but that also indicates something called soul loss or soul fragmentation. And that is when theory is that when we undergo some type of serious trauma and we're seriously affected by it, that we lose a piece of our soul, and it gets left behind. It gets left behind in the past, in the spirit world. So what the shaman does is to go back into the spirit world and retrieve it and bring it back to the person. Or it could be, if you want to act on behalf of yourself, you be your own shaman and do it for yourself. And I'm going to kind of run down a rudimentary breakdown about how all that kind of takes place. So the way they do is they capture that fragmented piece and bring it back to the person. Now, what type of traumas are we talking about? We're talking about type of trauma where someone's coping skills break down. They're completely overwhelmed. It could be an example of, an adverse reaction when someone dies. It could be post-traumatic stress, chronic depression, chronic anxiety. It could be signs, chronic grief. All the different types of responses that could occur when something extremely adverse occurs. Now, how could this kind of, and it could be like serious accidents, surgeries, physical, emotional abuse, and it could express itself, the soul fragmentation, soul loss, addictions, mental health problems, dissociation, grief, that sort of thing. Now, when this happens, we as humans tend to do things to fill that hole. So we can do that through drugs, alcohol, shopping, food, other types of things, maybe bad relationships, in order to try to make ourselves feel better, because we don't like feeling bad, we like to feel good. And it's kind of a maladaptive way of becoming whole again. And again, feeling whole when there is a loss, there is something missing. You'll hear from people that have undergone trauma and say, I'm not the same person. Or when someone dies, it's like part of me died. There was a part of me left behind. All this type of language indicates almost like a pointing to, soul fragmentation, spirit loss, all of that. So the spiritual way of doing that is to do soul retrieval. So how would one do that, like in modern day terms? If you don't want to take necessarily psychedelic drugs or do that sort of thing, what might be a way you can do it? Kind of like a meditation, maybe like a path working, where you kind of engage into a process in order to do the soul retrieval. Well, first of all, you have to kind of identify the issue that you think is a part of the expression of the soul loss, whether it be the depression, the anxiety, whatever that is, the addiction. Then what you would do is that you would find a quiet space, sit down, and then you would kind of go into do some grounding work. And it could be, some people will imagine golden light going through them to the ground and then back up. That might be a process. Or you might have some other types of things. Grounding has become really popular nowadays, especially when people are dissociating through post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic stress disorder or serious anxiety reactions. So any of those should work. After that, go into some methods of relaxation, whatever tends to work for you, whether it be meditation. It could be progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense your body up from top to bottom or bottom to top. Deep breathing exercises. And then once you get to that point, you will have to, it's a good idea, it's not required, to whatever room you're in to kind of clear the room. Because what you're doing is you're kind of opening yourself up. And you are also, there could be some things in the room that could interfere. We're talking about, sometimes they call it psychic debris. And some of this, what I'm explaining, is through the work of Steve Murray. I've adapted it and changed it a little bit to make it more, I guess, more accessible. But this psychic debris are different things that may be coming off our aura that can kind of attach, kind of like negative type of things. So clear the room just in case, and then go back into meditation. Now, one of the things that we're gonna, and I'll probably talk about this in a future video, let's talk about the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records is an old idea. It's from the 1800s. I think it comes from Theosophy, about that there is this almost a library, or we can think of it as a database that contains all of the memories and experiences of humanity and even ourselves, and that can be accessed for knowledge. I think maybe even Edgar Cayce talked about it. I'm not 100% sure about that. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be trying to use the Akashic Records to figure out what was the experience that caused this, because that is where the soul piece is. So when you got back in your chair, what you're going to be doing is imagining a swirling vortex. And from that vortex, when you imagine it, you're going to be going through it. And then when you go to the other side, you're going to be about to enter the Akashic Records. So you'll see a doorway and a window. The window you'll be able to look through in order to see what the experience is, but behind the door is the actual piece. So let's say that, as an example, someone looked through the window and they saw themselves as a little boy, at his father's funeral. That was the experience. So what the person would do was, after he realizes what this is about, is to go through the door and meet that piece. That piece, it's almost like a hologram. It's recorded. It's like a piece of himself, and yet it's an experience at the same time. Then when you meet it, you have your choices. You can talk to it, console it, tell them it's going to be okay. You're safe. We've gotten through this. And then what you're going to be doing is taking that little boy by the hand, and you're going to be taking it back through the door into the room, and then you go through the vortex. Now when you get through the vortex is spinning, so what it's going to do is it's going to reintegrate that piece back into you. And then, as that happens, you will come out through the vortex and get back into the room where you're sitting and into your body. And you take a few deep breaths, and that's it. So this is a good meditation for you to experiment with retrieving pieces of your soul. And you'll have to do this if you feel like that there might be other experiences where you've lost a piece of yourself. But you can do this multiple times in different ways and see where you get. It's an alternative way of dealing with trauma through shamanism. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm thinking about doing maybe a Patreon video to go into this process a little bit more deeply, and then we go through it slowly. But if you wanted to work with this, watch the video, take notes, and just go through it, memorize it, and go through it on your own. It's a kind of I've done this process before, and it's very healing. Don't be surprised if, when you're going towards the end, especially, that tears come to your eyes and you feel like a release. All right, so in any case, please subscribe and like. I'm going to put some descriptions, some links in the description. Check it out. I put some new material on my Patreon. And that is about it for now. So I will see you in a future video, and you have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks so much. Bye.